দর্শক আমন্ত্রণ আর টিভি নিয়মিত আলোচনা অনুষ্ঠান ফোর্থ রাইটে। এই অনুষ্ঠানে আমরা কথা বলি বিভিন্ন সেক্টরের বিশেষজ্ঞদের সাথে, যারা বাংলাদেশ নিয়ে ভবিষ্যৎ পরিকল্পনা ও তাদের অভিজ্ঞতা নিয়ে আলোচনা করেন। গেল 6 মাসে বিশ্ব সংবাদ মাধ্যমের বড় অংশই দখল করে রেখেছে করোনা ভাইরাস। এর সংক্রমণ ঠেকানো, চিকিৎসা, টিকা কিংবা ভ্যাকসিন আবিষ্কারের চেষ্টার বিষয়টি যেমন একটি দিক, আবার এর বাইরে মানব জীবন সংশ্লিষ্ট বিভিন্ন বিষয় রয়েছে। আজ কথা বলবো এই করোনার ভ্যাকসিন সহ মানব জীবনের প্রেক্ষাপট নিয়ে। আপনাদের সঙ্গে আছে আমি সৈয়দ আশিক রহমান। আজকের বিষয় দ্য সাইকোসোশ্যাল ইম্প্যাক্ট অফ কোভিড-19। আর এই বিষয়ে আলোচনার জন্য আমাদের সঙ্গে যুক্ত হয়েছেন অক্সফোর্ড বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের এমিরেটস অধ্যাপক এবং গবেষক ডক্টর রবিন ডানভার এবং আন্তর্জাতিক গবেষণা সংস্থা ICDDRBর সিনিয়র সায়েন্টিস্ট অধ্যাপক ডক্টর ফেরদৌসী কাদরি। থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ ফর জয়নিং উইথ আস। ফার্স্টলি, I would like to start with Professor Robin Dunbar. In this time of social distancing, can behavioral science slow the spread of COVID-19?
Yes, because one of the things behavioral scientists do is study how people behave when they're asked to do something or not do something, so they can kind of give better advice to governments maybe or to medical authorities as to how people are likely to respond if they're asked to behave in certain kinds of ways. But there's another aspect to this, and that's perhaps more the area of the DIE study, which is understanding the social world in which people live. So the first approach is kind of like advertising. If I how do I persuade you to behave in a certain way? And the other approach is, well, we have to remember that people are very social. That's human nature, and what are the important things about our social lives that we mustn't forget in terms of this problem, that we have now.
Dr. Ferdowsi Kadri, since you are a member of World Health Organization's technical experts group, let's ask you one desirable question: that when can the vaccine come to Bangladesh for COVID-19?
This is a question I'm asked almost many times in a day. And
that's a very common question to you.
Takes a long time to be produced and be used. But this time, COVID-19 has made a difference to our thinking. And globally, everyone is waiting for a vaccine. So now we can think of about over 150 vaccines being developed and 23 in phase 1, phase 2 trials. Some vaccines are going to phase 3 trials. And also, there are repurposed vaccines. That is like the BCG vaccine, the measles rubella vaccine, the polio vaccine, the flu vaccine are being repurposed to be used for COVID-19 prevention.
Well,
so when will it come to Bangladesh? My question is, Bangladesh is a story of vaccines. We are always very forward going. We accept vaccination as a very good preventive measure. So any vaccine that comes to Bangladesh goes through a phase 3 trial and a phase 1, phase 2 trial, then a phase 3 trial. But this time, because of the nature of this disease and the high epidemicity, we hope that Bangladesh will go into trials quickly once it has been shown in other countries to be safe and immunogenic. So based on that, I would think not before the end of the year, not before the beginning of next year.
So we must have to wait. Well, Professor Robin, the lockdown has changed the rules on social interaction. The need for physical distancing can leave people feeling isolated, but mostly people are keeping touch through online channels. Do you think this digitally distanced communication may substitute for physical presence?
Yes, the answer is yes and no, I think. It's yes in the sense that online channels seem to work very well. That's why digital social media like Facebook have been so successful, I think. But they seem to work best for relationships that already exist. So it's like keeping the wheels turning on the relationship. It's much more difficult for making new relationships. Certainly in our research, what we find is that although the digital media work well enough, in the end, people want to be able to sit down together and stare into each other's eyes, if you like. There's something much more meaningful about being able to sit down at a table together, or sit on a park bench together or something, and be physically in the same presence as another person. So, if you like, the digital media act like a sticking plaster. They keep the system going for a while, but it won't last forever. We find that if you don't meet physically at some point with your friends, especially your friends, but also, of course, family, then the relationship will kind of decay and die quietly. So that can take maybe a year or so, but in the meantime, meeting on digital media helps to keep the relationship going. And
then what are the consequences, Dr.
So I think in the short term, as long as the lockdown is only a few months, maybe 4 or 5 months, maybe even 6 months, people will become frustrated, but there won't be any great harm. If it went on for a long time, perhaps a year, then I think it would be quite damaging for people's social relationships, because their friendships would decay very strongly, and it would be kind of difficult to meet again, because you won't be sure what the relationship is with this other person when you meet up again. But we actually see some consequences of this already, it seems, in terms of children's relationships, because what the Australians have been reporting is an increase in bullying in school children, young school children, when they first come back to school together, because now their relationships are a little unsure of each other. So they have to, because they've been apart for some months, so they have to kind of reestablish who is the boss in the group and these kind of things. And so it's increased the frequency with which children seem to be kind of bullying each other, which is not very satisfactory, of course, but it will pass, I think, is the good news.
So, Professor Kazi, would you please add here?
I agree with Robin. It's all right until now, but as we go on with this kind of social distancing, it will have a different kind of an effect on our life. I have 3 children who live abroad, and for me is a major event that I cannot see them, touch them. And so these are things. But I think that right now, behavior change is very important until we have other preventive measures, like wearing masks, keeping a distance, not going to pubs or tea stalls for us, and not going to prayers in areas with lots of people, not being in crowds. That's the only thing that will save us now.
Dr. Ferdowsi, in Bangladesh, it's also increasing.
Yes, it is. I mean, people are not used to having their spouses around all the time.
Exactly.
At home.
Exactly.
And people are busy working outside. And when you come back for a few hours, it's okay. But then when you have nothing to do, you can't go to work, that you feel you disagree with people. And so people are not, all people are not patient.
Well, Professor Robin, do you want to add?
What we just heard is absolutely right. I think the big problem really is just kind of frustration with being not able to get out so easily, to go to the cinema maybe, or to go to your tea shop and have a cup of tea with friends. Then there are clear signs. I mean, even in the UK, for example, everybody goes off to the beach, and you look at the beach and it's full of people, and you think, are you mad? This is just what you shouldn't be doing. But it's because people are kind of saying, well, we've been indoors for so long, the children want to go and do something exciting, let's go to the beach. And everybody makes the same choice.
Exactly.
And,
well, then according to your research, how does people may overcome this frustration?
I think people have been surprisingly patient, actually. And I think certainly in the UK, the government was very worried that people might not be so patient. In general, people have been patient, and it has not been much of a problem. But I think the biggest problem for health, both mental health and physical health, really is loneliness. That's turning out to be the biggest killer of all possible diseases, which has been a surprise to everybody in medical epidemiology, I think. And so people who are already a little on the lonely side, I think are just going to be pushed. So older people who perhaps don't get out of the house so much are just going to be pushed just a little bit further over the edge of loneliness, and perhaps find it more difficult to make friends and reintegrate into a social world when they're allowed out. And I think that's what we have to worry about, really.
Then, Dr. Firdausi, in your view, what role does the government need to play for introducing vaccines quickly? What kind of preparation do we need now?
We have the government has to prepare for vaccines, and they can do this, and they're actually doing this, and will have to do it further with integrating with the plans that the Gavi, CEPI, and WHO are setting up. And Bangladesh gets integrated into this program. So I would think that Bangladesh has to make a proactive role in getting access to the vaccines. And you will know that there's these new alliances that have been made, the COVAX. And now we have the COVAX alliance and the COVAX facility. There's 175 countries are going to have a mechanism to develop vaccines, to use them, and to share them. And so I think Bangladesh has to be part of this. And being a member of the Gavi and the WHO, Bangladesh will have to get its share of vaccines, because now it is understood that after the avian influenza epidemic and pandemic, that all countries did not get their share of vaccines 10 years ago. And all countries in the world are very, very conscious of this, that they need to get their share. It's not, vaccines are being sold to very international companies. That will decrease the amount of vaccine coming our way. But with the COVAX alliance and the COVAX facility, this will be possible to share the vaccine so that every country in the world gets at least 20% of the vaccine that is being produced for the high risk groups.
Professor Robin, we are optimistic on Oxford vaccine. What is the progress?
Well, they're in trials at the moment. I think they're trialing them both in the UK and in Brazil. And as far as I know, the progress is going very well, is what I hear. And they should be ready quite soon for commercial production. So at that point, we can all get very hopeful and excited, I think.
Once they start introducing for commercial production, how can Bangladesh get it quickly?
I think the answer is we've already heard, is really this sort of international alliance, really, of being part of this sort of wider community. I guess the problem we have is that companies that produce these things want to make money, and governments and the people of countries would like them quickly and cheaply. And it's trying to find some agreement between the producers and the manufacturers, as it were, and that at least covers their costs. But certainly here, I don't know about other countries, but one or two of the big vaccine manufacturers here have promised to make them available for minimum cost. But you may know more about this than me, in fact. This is your area.
So I must share, Professor Kadri, you have the answer.
So I think a lot of effort is being made to raise funds. So Gavi is raising money, and they've already got over 690 million pledged. They want to have at least $2 billion so that they can have they can plan for this initiative of producing the vaccines, of sharing it. And also there are developing country manufacturers also. So that vaccines are going to come out, vaccines are going to be transferred to developing countries. Already things like this have started. So I think these efforts are very important, that for the first time there's been so much effort to really put, even before the vaccines are made, to see that at least 2 billion doses of vaccines are available by the end of 2021. And so that's a major achievement that they're planning. So,
Professor Robin, Distance learning, telemedicine, and smart working are the most recurrent words of this period and are thought to be magic solutions here to stay. How does this initiative may help in countries like Bangladesh?
Well, I think we'll have to see how smart working is, because everybody's talking about it now. We can all go and sit in our homes and work from home, and everything can be done by digital media. In fact, this was tried in the kind of 2000s, 1990s a little bit, when big companies in big cities told all their staff to go and live in their country houses and just communicate by Skype and so on. And I'm not sure it worked terribly well, because actually one of the things about the work environment is it's also a social environment. And when we come to work, we very often are working with our friends, people we know very well. It's one of the reasons we stay in a particular job, maybe in the friendship of our co-workers. And that friendship, that social environment of the workplace makes a big difference to how efficiently and how effectively a business actually works, or even a government department works. So I'd be very worried if we all work from home, because actually I don't think businesses would work so well, and I don't think even government departments would work so well, and universities, it would be a disaster. And that's because the process of teaching itself is a social interaction between pupil and teacher, and that really has to be done face to face. I think we would lose a great deal of the effectiveness of the way education works if we tried to do all this online.
Dr. Ferdowsi, how many people in the world will need a vaccine for COVID? How many vaccines can be produced by pharmaceuticals?
I mean, I just said, I think if you think of 20% of the people, the high-risk group first getting the vaccine, the healthcare workers, the frontline workers, the elderly, those with comorbid conditions that have suffered from the severe diseases, then it is a big matter. I mean, then I think we would, if we have a 7 billion population, we would need at least 2 billion vaccine doses in the beginning. Yeah, but then, yeah, and we don't know whether it's going to be, what kind of a disease it's going to be, recurring vaccination like flu, which may very well be true.
Well, Professor Kadri and Robin Dunbar, we'll talk more after a short break. দর্শক দেখছেন RTV নিয়মিত আলোচনা অনুষ্ঠান ফোর্থ রাইট। এই পর্যায়ে নিচ্ছি বিরতি, ফিরছি একটু পরেই। সে পর্যন্ত আমাদের সাথেই থাকুন। দর্শক, আবারও আমন্ত্রণ ফোর্থ রাইট অনুষ্ঠানে। আজকে কথা বলছিলাম দ্য সাইকোসোশ্যাল ইম্প্যাক্ট অফ COVID-19 প্রসঙ্গে। ওয়েলকাম এগেইন both of you at Fourth Night. Professor Robin Dunbar, in your view, how do social networking tools shape offline social behavior? Could there be negative consequences that we haven't anticipated? What are the ways to solve?
I think the online digital media work particularly well with family, actually. I'm not so sure how well they are going to work with friendships in the end. And of course, friendships beyond the family are important for our social well-being and even our physical well-being, our physical health. So although it helps to keep us feeling that we're still engaged with our family and friends, I worry about the extent to which friendships will kind of drift apart a little bit and become less strong, and people won't feel so engaged with their local community of friends and so on. And that would worry me a little bit, because I think you will see negative impacts on that from both mental health and physical health in the end.
Dr. Ferdowsi, World Health Organization warned that many countries were headed in the wrong direction on manages COVID. In your view, where Bangladesh stands?
I would say that Bangladesh is in line with the other countries also. everybody is trying to make the best of this situation. People have done social distancing, have done lockdown. They've relaxed lockdown. People allowed people to go to pubs and open up, go to beaches, but there's been re-emergence of COVID-19. So I
Right.
think Bangladesh has its own problems. We had to relax the lockdown because of financial reasons, for economical reasons, and the country has COVID-19 everywhere. So I think Bangladesh is not different. We are experimenting. We're thinking of ways to control the disease. We are trying to live our lives and at the same time control the disease and understand it. So I think Bangladesh is very much with everyone. There's a lot of testing needed. Every country, nobody is testing to its maximum. And so Bangladesh naturally is one of those countries. I think
Well-
so. We have the same problems or even more problems.
Professor Ravin, some experts believe that the COVID-19 pandemic will accelerate a change that had already begun, like a move away from US-centric globalization to a more China-centric globalization. How do you evaluate the possible impact on South Asian neighbors?
Well, I have to declare that I'm not a political theorist. That would be very hard to predict. I think this kind of, the world of politics is a very dynamic one and has changed through the ages and always will change through the ages. But if my view would be, if this is a reflection of the particular views of the American government at the moment, just be patient.
Be
The
patient.
beauty of
Okay.
the American social system is you cannot be president forever. And the
But
new
there are
president.
another dynamism on globalization.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there are interesting issues about globalization, which are quite separate from this in many ways, because I think we're not particularly well designed to handle globalization psychologically. We feel we lose control of what is happening in our neighborhood and our country because the system is being run from somewhere else by some company or by some government, perhaps, whatever it may be. So I don't know. I think we need to think long and hard about this. And I think what the COVID experience has warned us of is the dangers of having very long supply chains for industry, that if something happens in another part of the world that happens to make one tiny little piece even for maybe your TV set or your
Well,
telephone, then suddenly even the companies that make the rest of it in Bangladesh or in the UK are stuck. They can't. So I do wonder whether there will be some move towards kind of trying to reduce the length of those supply chains and make things
well,
back home again, home industry rather than global industries, as it.
well, Dr. Firdausi, do you want to elaborate on this globalization situation?
So like Robin, I'm also not a politician and not very well versed in this matter, but I think I can talk from my own experience of trying to run my research. It has been a nightmare to get small things across the world to my lab. And so that has been actually delayed everything. First of all, because of social distancing and all these embargoes, we have been slowed down in many ways. And then if you want to work, even on COVID-19, there are so many problems in getting things across. So it affects everyone. And so we are not self-sufficient in all the reagents and all these high-tech things that we need for our analysis all the time.
Even not other countries,
simple
even
computer
like
programs are a problem.
like
So
United
I would
States.
say it is a problem.
Dr. Firdausi, we feel proud for our impressive cholera treatment. What are the prospects of medical research in Bangladesh?
I think Bangladesh, I'm also always a positive person. I always tell in my interviews. So Bangladesh has done well in many things, and cholera is one of our very proud things that we've done at ICDRB
Very
with the
successful
Republic of
story.
Bangladesh.
Actually, we have.
Yeah. So now we have the cholera vaccine also in Bangladesh, locally produced. We have very good treatment. and almost nobody dies of cholera. But we have the disease. But I think if you think of COVID-19 as an example of a new disease that has been tackled, we did not have so many ICUs, so many ventilators, so many of the high-tech things needed, the high-flow oxygen, but it has all been done as much as possible. Every hospital has converted itself. There have been problems, there has been debates and complaints, but so we've been getting antiviral drugs into Bangladesh, locally produced also, manufacturers have come up. And so I think Bangladesh, if you compare an old disease like cholera of century old and a new disease like COVID-19, we are not doing badly. So I would say that we are tackling the problem, but our infrastructure has to be stronger.
Well,
I mean, if you think of the Bangladesh health infrastructure, we think of all the upazilas, all the hospitals, everywhere we don't have every facility, like in any other developing country. So I think COVID-19 is teaching us. It has taught to strengthen our labs, strengthen our health facilities. So
and infrastructure, health,
it has
medical infrastructure. Exactly. We are almost end of the program. Any final thought both of you want to share with our viewers? Professor Robin first.
I think just to pick up on the last point, really, mentioned that many of the developing countries, don't have well-developed healthcare systems and infrastructure for health. And I think the big lesson here is none of us have. We found we were in exactly the same situation in the UK with no ventilators, none of the right kinds of things in the right place. The difficulty with those kind of things is these emergencies only happen once in a lifetime, maybe. Well, and so, how do you balance having all the facilities just in case, which costs a lot of money, or not having the facilities in place all the time, but having some way of responding to get them? And I think, the lesson there probably is you need the industry backup in the country. Every country needs that industry capability. Right. To be able to respond fast, because if you have to depend on trying to import it from some other part of the world, there's all those delays, there's competition between countries to try and get what they need. We've already seen this, countries fighting for access to drugs and even ventilators and even masks for people to wear. So I think a lot of that is just, I think, is the attitude of business rather than anything else, and being able to say, okay, we can do this very quickly. We didn't do it until this week, but we can get the machinery going and we can have the production going very quickly to respond to the country's needs. And it's kind of being flexible. And I think one of the problems about globalization is it's caused industry in particular not to be very flexible and imaginative in how it deals with production of things.
Professor Ferdowsi Qadri, any final thoughts you want to share?
I can follow up on what Robin said. And my feeling is that this is probably the first time, I don't know if it will be the last time, that the whole world is facing similar problems. I mean, a very tiny bug is causing a problem everywhere in the world. And so it has taught us many things. How to live by yourself with very little demands, but also how to tackle the problem. I mean, the simple behavior change problems become so important, which we've tried to tell people for many years. And it hasn't worked in countries like ours, of washing your hands or keeping clean. And so now it's working. So maybe it is a change for the better now for all of us.
Well,
and we're all learning. I think we wouldn't have learned like this if it wasn't for this pandemic and SARS-CoV-2.
Exactly. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Robin Dunbar and Dr. Ferdowsi Qadri. Appreciated for joining with us. দর্শক, ইউরোপিয়ান কাউন্সিল অন ফরেন রিলেশনসের পরিচালক মার্ক লিওনার্দ বলেছেন, কোভিড-19 এমন এক দীর্ঘমেয়াদী সংকটের ইঙ্গিত দিচ্ছে যেখানে কোনো একক দেশের পক্ষে একঘরে হয়ে সবকিছু সামাল দেওয়া সম্ভব হবে না। তাকে ভবিষ্যতে অন্যের উপর আরও বেশি নির্ভর করতে হবে। বিশেষজ্ঞরা বলছেন, আমাদের এই মনোজগৎ বিচ্ছিন্নতার ইঙ্গিত দেয় না, ফলে করোনার মতো মহামারী মোকাবেলায় একে অপরের প্রতি নির্ভরশীলতা ভবিষ্যতে আরও বৃদ্ধি পাবে, যার সাথে একমত পোষণ করেছেন আজকের অতিথিরা। তবে পারস্পরিক এই নির্ভরশীলতার আদলে বিশ্বায়নের ইতিবাচক পরিবর্তন ঘটুক, সেই প্রত্যাশায় শেষ করছি আজকের অনুষ্ঠান। এতক্ষণ সঙ্গে থাকার জন্য ধন্যবাদ সবাইকে।
For more updates, subscribe and press the bell icon on YouTube app and never miss another update.